Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn here on Business Talk Radio and live streaming on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. I am your host and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and I'm actually coming to you live from Cherry Hill, New Jersey at the RVN TV station, which is kind of interesting. So I am thrilled for our show today. I have a guest who has become a friend. We met by chance, I would say, and she has been on the program before, and she has so much to share that we had to have her back today. Her name is Heather Dean, and while I intro her, I'm going to play a song called Searching for Heather Dean. Heather Dean is the author of Searching for Heather Dean, My Extraordinary Career as a Celebrity Interviewer and Why I Left It. Heather has an incredible story to share. She's actually in Jerusalem now, in Israel. And so we are recording this show outside of our normal time so that we can make sure that we have her bright and awake as opposed to on a Friday at 5 o'clock. So Heather, welcome to the program. You are the founder of Heather Dean Productions and the author of this book. You also are a talk show host, I should say a podcast host. You have interviewed some of the most famous people in the world. You lived in Manhattan in a rent-controlled apartment. You had an incredible life in New York, and you walked away from all of it to find your true connection with God, with the Creator. So welcome back to the program.
It's so great to be back, Jacalyn. Thank you very much. Thank you for asking me back.
I'm thrilled to have you. And I wanted to start off with this song by Michael Mazzarella, Searching for Heather Dean. I read in your book that you are a race walker, so that you would walk really fast around the park in New York. And so your friend Michael, I guess, was always looking for you. And so that's why he wrote that song?
He was looking for me, not for romantic reasons. We were very, very good friends and still are. He was looking for me because Michael is an avid bicyclist. So he would look for me as I'm race walking around the Central Park Loop, and he would bike ride around the Central Park Loop. So using me as his gauge, how many revolutions he had made around the park based on where I was in the park, he would gauge how fast he was going. So when a friend one day ran into him and said, "Hey, Mike, what's up?" He says, "Hey, man, I'm searching for Heather Dean." And later, the song was born.
So again, it's called Searching for Heather Dean by Michael Mazzarella. So did I say that right?
Michael Mazzarella, yes. So that the video's on YouTube, and it's on his. He's done record albums, so it's on one of the record albums also. That's
quite an honor to have someone write a song about you. So kudos to you and for your friendship with Michael. So Heather, when we had you on the show last, we spent most of the interview talking about the book and talking about what it was like to be a celebrity interviewer and some of the people that you interviewed. And I want to talk a little bit about that, but I also want to focus really on your religious journey and how that started and where you are today. How does that sound?
Sounds wonderful. Fantastic.
Perfect. So in terms of this book, I've read this book numerous times. And by the way, I have a signed copy for which I'm very excited. So I've read it. And yesterday I was reading it again. And it's amazing to me that you had no experience and you went from that to accomplishing thousands of interviews with some of the most famous people in the world. And yet you're so grounded and you're so in connection with God, with the Creator, in giving back, and you have such an open heart. So one extreme seems to be, and I'm not judging, I'm just saying on one extreme, a person could say, wow, you glitzy, glamorous. Why and how could you give it up?
Right. How did I what on earth would propel me to give that up and walk away? So obviously, if that existence was so incredibly fun, it was great. I have the best memories of continually meeting celebrities, interviewing them, getting invited to every premiere you can possibly imagine, getting free tickets to movie screenings and Broadway shows, and invitations to go to the studio and basically watch any show I wanted live in the studio. My favorite was Saturday Night Live, to watch it in the studio, which I did more times than I can count. It's fun. Yeah, and you know what? Some celebrities I would interview multiple times. So it really was such a charmed life, especially for someone who is a fan of entertainment. So you can imagine a fan of sports getting all access to NFL and NBA players and Major League Baseball and hockey, and So for me, I loved the entertainment business. I loved celebrities. I loved being a consumer of entertainment. So yes, being a girl from suburban Ohio, that I would one day grow up and be an interviewer in the broadcast industry, just interviewing celebrities. That was my job. It was fantastic. So to walk away from that, I would, if I were a philosopher or a deep thinker, I would say, well, something must have been even better. And I definitely walked away for what I call a life upgrade. So I walked away for something even better. And I think that's why we make any of our decisions, is weighing what's the better choice, what's better for me, what's better for the world.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. You know that Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn is all about inspiring hope and helping people overcome adversity. So I think, especially during this pandemic, people are making change because they have to, they're forced to. But you can also make a change like you did, because you think and feel and know that you're going to go somewhere far greater than where you are. And that's where you are today. So congratulations on doing that. Can you share with us where you are today in terms of what does your life look like? You are a podcast interviewer, right?
Yeah, so I'm actually still interviewing celebrities. What I get to do is interview Jewish stars. So people that are known, very, very well known in Jewish circles of scholarship and Jewish circles of inspiration, and authors and public speakers, people who are well known in the religious Jewish community. So I'm one of the better known interviewers of Jewish stars. So one of the ways that I've been able to utilize my skills and experience for the better, I think, is to actually be the producer and host of one of my projects. Is a weekly podcast, which is on aish.com. And aish.com is one of the largest Jewish websites, which has all kinds of content, including articles and video and audio classes. My podcast is the only weekly podcast on aish.com. So what that sets out to do is to explore different aspects of Jewish home life. So it could be that one week I'm interviewing somebody talking about an aspect of parenting, and the next week it might be about marriage, and then the next week about dating, and the next week it could be about recipes, but a different aspect of Jewish home life. So that's what At Home in Jerusalem is about. So in a way, yes, I've been able to utilize those skills and talents for something good and for something that is definitely Jewish. And that's one of the many things I do, including public speaking and other types of Jewish content.
Well, you're so talented that you have to keep going and keep doing what you do so well. So I'm glad to hear that. I wanted to go back to the book, and in the book you talk about different celebrities whom you've interviewed, and you get to know their style, or if they need a lot of maintenance. And so one of those was Madonna. And I think what I read was that she was always late.
Yes. Yes. I think I've not known her to be on time, but listen, there are many super well-known people who are late. So, I think if it's for a live TV, appearance, maybe that can't happen. But even that has happened. I know people who have been late to Good Morning America, and do you remember Regis and Kathy Lee? So people would be late to that, late to the Howard Stern show, whatever, and that's really bad. That gets you a bad reputation around town if you're late to a live interview of that level of the level of Good Morning America. Goodness. But yeah, so Madonna was always late, and so it happened one time that she was late actually for a Today Show taping. They had agreed to record an interview with her, and the anchor had waited, legend has it, close to 3 hours. She still wasn't there, and this was one of the anchors of the Today Show who just told the crew, that's it, we have other things to do, and we're not going to be waiting for Madonna. And so she lost out. So there you are. There you are. But she's an interesting person to interview. Once the interview gets going, she's okay.
And then there are other celebrities with whom you became really good friends, like Edie Falco.
So Edie and I got to know each other super well long before she made her big break. And that's how it is with many of the celebrities that I know. It was all before they got their big break, especially in the comedy world. I knew all of them when they were struggling stand-up comedians who are now, many of them, world famous. But, you know, I was on the New York scene, not just for celebrity interviewing reasons, but one of my favorite types of homework was going to comedy clubs in the evening and seeing who the new talent is, who are the new up and coming rising stars in the comedy world. But Edie and I just knew each other from being around New York City, and we became good friends. And so, yeah, I do write in the book how she turned me on to a book that would become a bestseller in its own right. So that was cute. Yeah, but she's a lovely person. She's a lovely person.
And that book was The Rules, is that
That
correct?
was The Rules, yes. So long before The Rules became a big splash. So I actually had a small hand in helping make that big splash. But anyway, Edie told me about this. We were at a movie screening for a new Robert Redford movie, and the movie was completely not memorable and didn't earn money at the box office so much. But our chat before the screening began was memorable. So she had told me about this book, The Rules, which is about dating for girls that are, and young women who want to be married. And this is, she said, it's as if your big sisters were sitting you down and telling you, this is what you need to do. These are the rules if you want to find Mr. Right and marry him. So I thought, well, that sounds interesting. You know, one day I want to get married. So I bought the book on my way home from the movie screening, read it, thought it was really super interesting. And at the time, I was producing celebrity news reports for that were for people that were on camera. They were well-known magazine editors. So I was telling these different magazine editors, oh my gosh, I'm reading this book, The Rules. This is really turns dating on its ear. One of the people that I told was the editor of Parent Magazine, and she ended up assigning some editor to do a story on The Rules. That, when it was published, that was on the treadmill of one of Oprah Winfrey's producers, who read this article on The Rules. I was interviewed for the article, among other people. And so Oprah's producer said, we're getting these authors on the show, and boom, instant overnight bestseller. You never know who's going to read a book on a treadmill and have their show host, you know, put it out there.
Absolutely. And two of my favorite rules are, if the person doesn't ask you out by Wednesday for Saturday, then forget it. And that the gentleman always pays. I love that one.
The gentleman always pays. Yeah. The Wednesday Saturday rule is just if he needs to ask you on or before Wednesday for a Saturday date, and if it's afterward, then you're just busy. You're
right.
Just busy. And then if he's into you, he will call and ask for the next for another time if he's into you. But yes, so the thing about which one did you just say? Never calling, never paying for a date. So wouldn't you know? Now I'm a happily married woman. We just celebrated 19 years of our very first date, my husband and I, and I never once paid for a date. I never telephoned him, and I never paid for a date. He would call me, and if for some reason I need to call him back, whatever. But yeah, I mean, those would be rules. You don't. So whatever, they did work. It did work, but I wasn't really, by then I wasn't playing the rules. But yeah, I mean, the rules, they do work.
I agree. Yes. So we have a lot more to talk about, and we're going to hear about when you had to overcome adversity and what that looked like. But right now we're going to hear some messages from some of my friends. And I just want to say Margie Cedrone Jewelers, we're going to hear from her. And today's piece of jewelry is this beautiful necklace that she made for me. And it can be worn in the front and in the back. So
and it matches.
Yes, it matches my ring and my earrings. So Margie Cedrone Jewelers, we will hear from her, and my other friends right now. We'll be right back with Heather Dean.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type, with any vehicle. Give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Make a bold statement by wearing a custom jewelry design from Margie Cedrone, Artisan Jeweler, located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey. Telephone number 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone is an artisan jeweler who has been a permanent fixture on the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia since 1988. Starting her business in 1982, all of Margie's designs are individually handmade as well as custom design. She is one of the only jewelers left in the area who still crafts the finest tailor-made diamond jewelry, whether it's a statement piece or an everyday item. In addition to her one-of-a-kind designs, she specializes in pearl stringing and bead jewelry repairs. Margie Cedrone Jewelry pairs nearly 30 years of experience with the building of lifelong client relationships. Dr. Jacalyn has been a client and friend of Margie Cedrone for many, many years. Each week during my show, Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, I will be featuring one of the beautiful pieces of jewelry that Margie custom made for me. I urge you to contact Margie through her website, margiecedronejewelry.com. Wait no longer to make your own bold statement.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hi, welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn here live on Business Talk Radio and also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. We have my friend and an incredible author, a woman who is a role model for everyone. Her name is Heather Dean. She's the founder of Heather Dean Productions, and she wrote this phenomenal book, Searching for Heather Dean, My Extraordinary Career as a Celebrity Interviewer and Why I Left It. Heather, welcome back to the program.
So good to be back. Thank you.
So your book is a great read. As I mentioned, I've read it several times. My mother's read it. My friends have read it. And there is some sadness in the book and really focused around the time when your mother passed away. So your mom had passed away, and from what I read, it was very difficult. You were changed as a person. What are your memories of that time?
So I was very close with my parents growing up, and especially my being the only daughter in the family. So very close with my mother, like very close mother-daughter relationship. One of the people I love the most in the whole world. So she was diagnosed with cancer in, you know what, she was diagnosed a bit too late. She had never really gone for testing because she was always afraid that she would, I don't know, be diagnosed with an illness. So unfortunately, she was diagnosed at one of those advanced stages. And it was, she had treatments, she had remission, so it was pretty long, but she still ended up dying young. She was in her early 60s when she passed. So at any age, for a daughter to lose her mother, it's very, very impactful. One of the books that I read that helped me feel understood is actually a book called Motherless Daughters by Hope Edelman. And I highly recommend it for any woman of any age, whether her mother passed away long ago or is newly not with us anymore, whatever it is. That was very, very helpful. So yes, this was in my early 20s when she was diagnosed, and by the time she passed, It was in 1995, so I was already, I was a young adult still. Um, yeah, it was difficult, and because she had a long illness, so of course, if anyone listening has any kind of has any kind of hypochondria, I should say. So that's the sort of person who might tend to think that anything is deathly ill, right? So with my mother's own illness, I was like really nervous, like, oh, what if I'm also going to have this illness? So it's just like a lot of hypochondria I was going through, which I detail in the book, but also just a lot of worry and stress in general. Stressing out over my job at MTV, where I worked very, very long hours, and I was super ambitious and a really good, solid team player who always made all the deadlines. But nonetheless, with all of that going on, yeah, it was quite a crossroad in my life. So I guess when anyone is ever now. Before I say this probably happens to you, Dr. Jacalyn, on your end of things, that a lot of your clients, maybe they're at a crossroad or they're troubled over something, and so they seek your guidance, your mentorship, some sort of relief from the pain of all that flux, that state of flux they're in. So I was in New York City going through all these issues, and any counselor that I would speak with was, nice, but I really wasn't finding truth or depth or something that I could really hold on to. It occurred to me, actually, a conversation I had with my mother when I was a child, when she had mentioned that rabbis counsel people. I don't know how I held on to that memory, because I thought that was absurd, especially as a non-religious person, but Jewish. So I thought, okay, here I am in my 30s. Maybe I'll just talk to a rabbi about these worries that I have. And wouldn't you know, in New York City, I didn't know a single rabbi, and it's a very a huge Jewish population. I didn't know a single rabbi because religion was not on my radar at all. But a religious friend of mine introduced me to a rabbi who she knew that I ended up speaking with. And this was actually what started me on my journey to looking further into the relationship that I was born into. So yes, it started with some sort of crisis of emotions and my mother's failing health at the time. But it turned into a journey into something that was very, very authentically Jewish.
And thank you for sharing that. And isn't it interesting that you had a latent memory that you hadn't thought of for so long, and that took you and your life in a completely different direction?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's a breakthrough. I think that's what you would call a breakthrough in counselor speak, right?
Yeah, an insight or a breakthrough. So do you remember back to that time? So your friend Rebecca had introduced you to Rabbi Goldhar?
Rabbi Avram Goldhar, yes.
Yes. And so thinking back to that time and knowing that you had been in all this pain, you wanted to speak to someone, and then all of a sudden it's like a door is opening. Do you rush through the door? Or
oh yeah, wow! I so did not want to rush through any door. I was not interested in religious living, religion, rules, regulations. Perhaps because growing up, I had gone to Hebrew school. So Hebrew school is a program that's all over the Western world, which is basically lessons in Hebrew and Judaism. That is for public school kids. So after a whole day in public school, so a few Jewish friends and I would be taken over to wherever the synagogue held Hebrew school lessons. This was not, looking back, this is not what I would call authentic Judaism at all. I did learn how to read and write Hebrew, and I learned about the state of Israel. But it's, it wasn't really this particular branch, so to speak, of Judaism really isn't about the Torah or the laws that the Creator expects of us to follow. So this is the thing, is that I had such a nice first meeting with this rabbi that a few months later, the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, rolled around. There were no celebrities to interview that day. And I thought, what am I going to do? I could go race walking again in Central Park, or I could just put on a nice, modest outfit and go back to that center of Jewish learning where I had first met Rabbi Goldhar. So going back to that center of Jewish learning, which is Esha Torah, New York City, that won out. I just thought I would try it, and wouldn't you know, I could actually follow along in the prayer book, which was half English, half Hebrew, because I knew and I retained enough of the Hebrew alphabet over the years. I could follow along with the service, and it did not make me religious overnight, not at all. But I would slowly come back and take some classes at that community center and started to learn more about authentic Judaism. I would learn about what's actually in the Torah, taught by actual scholars of the Talmud, and that made all the difference in the world. It's a dirty little secret, but I need to tell the tale, and that is that there are many people who call themselves rabbi, who are absolutely not scholars of the Talmud and are not what you would consider in any aspect a kosher rabbi. So I had the opportunity to learn from actual scholars of the Talmud who could answer the deep questions and bring forth deep insights that are authentic Judaism. So I'm so grateful to the Creator to be on that path of authentic Judaism.
Wow, that's amazing. I just keep thinking about how much pain you were in losing your mother, and then all the emotions that were going through it, and you did something that you hadn't done before, and it changed your life. And so when we look at what's going on in the world today and how people are also in pain, right, for many different reasons, and if we go with our intuition and maybe we let a crack of a door open, our whole lives could change for the better, just like with what happened to you. You already had a fantastic life, and now your life is even better and even more fulfilling.
Yes. So a lot of that is when you crack open that door of, let's say that you're a little bit spiritually curious. So if you are a person who believes there is a higher power, so maybe just speak in your own words, not necessarily through a prayer book, but just speak in your own words and establish a relationship, sort of like, are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. To really have, though, a conversation of, why is this pandemic happening? Why is my family like this? Why is my relationship like this? To really, a person, any person, this is not about Jews anymore. This is about any citizen of the world can talk to God, person to Creator, and just ask the deep questions and be still. And it could be answers may come, or insights, or you never know. You need to, though, stand by, and maybe the right messengers will be brought to you, the right ideas, the right inspiration to carry you forward.
And I found with myself that consistency and perseverance and resilience really makes a difference, because you don't always feel great as you're going through the journey, right?
Right.
You have your intuition, you're following your intuition, but at the same time, you might not feel 100% positive all the time because everything's not going exactly as you would like it. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. I'm so glad you asked, because there's a key principle in Judaism, but it's a universal principle. But in Hebrew, it's called emunah. Okay? Emunah is loosely translated as faith, but emunah is the understanding that there is one creator of the world who is the source of everything and every event and every one of us. He is the source of all things and all events. So to have emunah is to know, wow, I'm stuck in traffic, or wow, I'm stuck in a relationship, or wow, I feel like I'm stuck, or I'm overburdened or overwhelmed for whatever reason, but it's a situation that God has put us in for our benefit. And the thing that we do with emunah is then ask God in our own words, how do I use this situation to move forward? What do I need to do or be in this relationship to go forward? To serve you, to have a better place, a better focus in the world. So again, it's that genuine conversation, but having emunah that we are all here for a reason. We woke up this morning for a reason, because God needs us to do something in the world today. Let's make the right choice and do something good for the world today, for the people in our lives, for ourselves.
That's so well put. And I'm wondering if you found like what I found. I'm looking and I'm praying all the time to be thankful for all the positive things that I do have. You know, we can be so mired in what we don't have, but we actually have a lot of great things. And even through this pandemic, the time you get to spend with your family, for example, you might never have again. What do you think about it?
I think you're 100% spot on. And I also think if we were to at least just take a deep breath, can you imagine what the gift is of a deep breath? Many of us are touched by the lives of somebody or several people who have been diagnosed and who are really, really struggling with this illness and the illness. May we never know such a thing. But I've heard from people who have COVID that taking a breath feels like, for some patients, that it feels like the lungs, the passageways are like glass, like sharp glass.
Mm.
And when I hear that analogy, I just think, what a gift to be able to have a full breath. What that patient wouldn't give for that. To be able to breathe freely and unassisted. These are basics, but when even on a day that we may have a cold or a flu or a headache, you know, sometimes I wake up with a sinus headache, but what a gift we have just to be able to breathe well and to feel well and have medicine to get better. You're right, Jacalyn. There's many, many gifts that we should be grateful for.
And Heather, I have to share with you, my father had bronchiectasis, so he had a problem with his lungs, and he was literally gasping to breathe for years. And it's horrible to actually watch that. And I used to think to myself, we take for granted just breathing. And if we breathe and we breathe in deep and maybe hold it for a second and then release it. I work on my inhales. I'm up to 15 seconds. So I'm trying to get to 20 seconds where you just keep breathing in. And it just has such a sense of calming. So that is such an important point, that even being able to breathe unencumbered or without medication, it's such an incredible gift. So
absolutely.
You are a breath of fresh air. You are just so motivating. Where can we watch you? Where can we hear you?
Okay, so I think the best way to hear me actually is to buy my book, and that way you would know so much about my journey and maybe something, even if you're a fan of entertainment business, to read for the entertainment. But if you are also into personal development, this book, I've been told, helps many, many people. But also a person could go to age.com and listen to the podcast. Or for everything that I do, you can get updates by going to my website, which is heatherdeanproductions.com. So that way people can find out all of the projects that I do, because I do a lot of public speaking. And you can also contact me there to speak to your organization or to your community. So however I can be of service, I really look forward to what opportunities are out there.
And Heather, I want to thank you personally. You actually reached out to me. And since you reached out to me, a whole new world is open for me, which is amazing. Would you mind sharing just how you ended up on Business Talk Radio and finding me?
Okay, so I'm a big fan of your good friend Ashley Owens, and who I would, she's somebody that the minute you hear her speak, even 10 seconds, that you want to be her friend also. So, but I think she gives amazing business advice. So I am a regular follower of hers on LinkedIn, just for the professional advice and packaged in such an entertaining way. So Ashley one day did an entry on her LinkedIn saying, I was on the radio today. So I listened to her show with you. And I've listened to many interviews. I've conducted hundreds of interviews. And I really think that the interview that you, Jacalyn, did with Ashley that I listened to, I gained so many insights about Ashley because of your facilitating great questions. And I thought, anyone who is this good of an interviewer, I need to reach out and connect with her. So that's why, yes, I dashed an email straight away to you. And I was very happy to be responded to so nicely and so quickly. So yes, a friendship was born. And it's so wonderful to collaborate with you with everything that we do together.
And we have a lot of good shows coming up with the two of us interviewing guests. So I just want our viewers and our listeners to realize that if you put yourself out there, anything can happen. And when we had the interview with Heather, the first interview at the end, when we were off camera, off of the radio, I said to her, I just wanted to know, why in the world did you want to be on my show? Because you've interviewed some of the most famous, successful people in the world. And your answer was, you are so much leading your life with your heart. And that really touched me. So the point is that, you are an incredible person. You're touching the lives of other people. You've touched my life. And I know you're touching the lives of people who are watching, listening right now. So I recommend highly that you get Heather Dean's book, Searching for Heather Dean, My Extraordinary Career as a Celebrity Interviewer and Why I Left It. And also reach out to her to hear her podcast. And guess what? You and I have an interview, I think, in a few days with somebody, right?
Yes. In a few business days. I'm really excited.
Yes. So Heather is in Jerusalem, and so we've thoroughly enjoyed having you. We're going to have you back again as a guest if you'll be gracious enough. And in the meantime, you and I will keep interviewing fascinating and interesting people who are also giving back to the world.
Terrific. I really, really look forward, and I thank the listeners and viewers also for watching and listening to our interview today. So fun. Thank you.
So much fun. My thanks to the producers, Pastor Ken down in Louisiana and Chris in New York, and also to everyone watching on Facebook Live and YouTube Live and everyone listening on Business Talk Radio. And also a thanks to Keith and Lori here at RVN TV studio in Cherry Hill for letting me do my show from here. So thanks, everyone. We'll be back next week. Actually, Friday.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Make a bold statement by wearing a custom jewelry design from Margie Cedrone, Artisan Jeweler, located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey. Telephone number 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone is an artisan jeweler who has been a permanent fixture on the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia since 1988. Starting her business in 1982, all of Margie's designs are individually handmade as well as custom design. She is one of the only jewelers left in the area who still crafts the finest tailor-made diamond jewelry, whether it's a statement piece or an everyday item. In addition to her one-of-a-kind designs, she specializes in pearl stringing and bead jewelry repairs. Margie Cedrone Jewelry pairs nearly 30 years of experience with the building of lifelong client relationships. Dr. Jacalyn has been a client and friend of Margie Cedrone for many, many years. Each week during my show, Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, I will be featuring one of the beautiful pieces of jewelry that Margie custom made for me. I urge you to contact Margie through her website, margiecedronejewelry.com. Wait no longer to make your own bold statement.